Hi guys! Today's guest of the Electronic Corner really knows what the word success means because, for example, one of his videos got more than 10 million views on YouTube. He has performed on the German talent show Das Supertalent and is currently recording a double album with musicians who usually collaborate with Kate Bush and Jamiroquai. So, quite interesting, isn't it? Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's meet Stephen Paul Taylor. Hi, Stephen. Welcome to the
Hello.
Electronic Corner. Thanks a lot for accepting my invitation. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Yeah, everything is fine. Thank you. Well, let's start because there's really a lot of stuff to ask you today.
All
So,
right.
well, the first question is kind of boring probably for you. I guess you have to answer several times. But since your story is inspiring, I would like you to educate the fans of the Electronic Corner as well. You went from playing your song EKSF, I use the shortened version not to upset the kids, in the streets of Berlin, to playing on Das Supertalent. And now, for your forthcoming double album, you're collaborating with musicians such as drummer Preston Heyman and bass guitarist Derek McIntyre. Now, how could all of this happen, leaving the side that your talent obviously played a role on it?
Uh, it was kind of a happy coincidence how everything happened. I mean, I guess you could, if you get really spiritual about it, you could say it was manifest. The universe just helped me out a little bit or something. Um, I just honestly, I just was at a, when all this first happened, I was at a point where I put my head down and I just worked and I just like started playing as much as possible. I started busking as much as possible, wrote as many songs as I could. And my friend came over and recorded my album in a really like low key kind of way. Um, I did the tracks the way I do them on the street, like just very simple. And yeah, we just made an album really quick and I just like had it there really quick and I had no big plans. Like I didn't, release on Spotify. I didn't know if Spotify was around 10 years ago. I don't know. But yeah, so it was just a very happy event, I guess, when I was filmed and that went viral.
So one thing led to the other, basically, right? From that on,
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
success.
Kind of. But it all kind of came from it kind of came from a dark place because I was actually going through a breakup and I was feeling really terrible. And one of the only things that made me happy was to go out and play music because when I played music, I didn't feel those feelings anymore. They were just like the depression, it was just gone. Like the sadness was just gone. I was like feeling really good. It's amazing. It's like a magic drug, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, this was an easy one, but I'm really curious to hear what you're going to say about for the next question. Because if you are the synth-pop king of the world, as stated on your Facebook page, but synth-pop is dead, at least according to the title of your 2020 album, what happens to the king?
Well, I mean, who's to say that the title of the album wasn't tongue in cheek, you know? I
Okay.
I'll tell you the origin of that. It is pretty tongue in cheek because the origin of that is I don't know if you know the YouTube channel Watch Mojo.
Not really.
Okay, so they do like top 10 lists and stuff. And they said the top 10 music genres that are dead. And in that video, there's like dubstep, I don't know, a bunch of other ones. And synth pop is one of them. And I was like, what? They're saying synth pop is dead? But I tell everybody to make synth pop. And so I thought it's kind of a funny title because is it dead? You know? So I think I still am the synth pop king.
Good. That's good to know. People take note of that. Now, considering that two Madonna fans, let's say, sued the artist because she showed up late on stage at a gig they were attending, and they had to get up early the next morning, poor things. Do you think that in the relationship between artist and fans, there is still room for irony and a bit of exaggeration, which is, something that you use occasionally, but just in the name of fun? Or are we slowly heading toward a kind of like customer-supplier formal relationship?
Well, I mean, people talk about what is the term for that? Parasocial relationships, right? These are parasocial in a way. And I don't know if they're exactly parasocial. Parasocial might just be if you see someone on a screen, but maybe you see them. I'm not sure. Um, can you repeat the question actually? Sorry.
Yeah, what I'm saying is like on one side, you have these people that are kind of, well, not kind of, they sued Madonna because,
Mm,
she showed up late they went to see her concert and they expected her to start on time, but
mm.
obviously she was late and they had to get up early the next morning. And so they sued her because of like mental or physical damage, whatever, which to me
I
is
mean,
kind of weird, because I mean, like, being late, at least in my times, I tell you this, it was like, I think 1986, 87. I was with Depeche Mode in Turin, and the concert was supposed to start at 9. That's what was saying the ticket. It was 9:15. We were still in the hotel and they were not
oh,
concerned at all. I mean, at that time, if you were not at least 1 hour late, you were not a star. That was
yeah.
kind of a status symbol, to be late on stage by at least 1 hour. And now we have reached the point where if you're late, you risk that your fans are suing you. So that's why I'm asking, are we kind of heading toward a sort of customer supplier relationship between,
Mm,
the artist and their fans, also considering that, you have this kind of like um at least my impression, you're using irony, or you say this thing like I'm the synth-pop king of the world and stuff like that,
mm.
so is there still room for like uh how to say, treating our fans as, of course, not like slaves or puppet, but like, saying things without being afraid that, somebody may sue you just because maybe he felt offended by something that you said. That's the question.
I mean, I I don't know. I think I kind of feel like it's been happening for a while, like people acting a bit ridiculous. Like I think that's a bit extreme on the part of the concert goers. Um, but uh, yeah, it's an interesting question. I remember when what was the band? Guns N' Roses. Axl Rose was playing in Vancouver, and he was really late, like maybe 2 hours late, and people freaked out. So people like they actually started a riot, and there was a big riot and people throwing stuff. And that was like maybe 20, maybe even 25, 30 years ago. So that's not exactly the same as suing, but it's definitely an overreaction to it. And maybe you could also consider that a supply and demand thing. I'm not sure. But
Mm,
I don't know if we're heading towards it. I mean, let's just see. And I guess we'll just see if this sort of thing continues to happen or not. We're definitely living in an entitled times. I think more and more people are feeling entitled to certain
mm.
things or being treated.
So are you usually on time on stage, or do you like people to wait for you?
Uh, well, in Berlin, it's like you'll say a concert starts at 10 and then it won't start until 11, for example, or 12 or whatever. And so many times I've been asked to play at a certain time and then I end up playing later anyway. So I guess I just end up looking that way because it's like people are like, when are you playing? I don't know. I don't make the decisions. But I try not to be late myself. Usually for sound checks, I'm like maybe 15 minutes late, but
Mhm.
I'm pretty on time.
That's good.
Yeah.
And when you think of the Casio keyboard that you used to write your very first song when you were 14, what
Mhm.
kind of feelings arise in you?
Uh, to be honest with you, I don't really remember the keyboard very much. I remember the experience, and I can almost remember even the beat and the accompaniment that came with it, but I can't for the life of me remember what it was, like what the brand was. I remember where I was. I was sitting in the hallway and in my uncle's place. I was living in Vancouver with my uncle, and yeah, and I remember that moment very clearly, but I just don't remember the actual Casio keyboard for some reason. It was just a means to. It was a
Hmm.
means to make the creation. Yeah.
Okay. So it didn't have a special meaning to you. It was not like your little baby or toy or whatever.
No.
You don't remember it that way. Okay. And now, from your very first song to the last so far, at least, Kicking the Habit, released very recently, in fact, deals with an addiction that you developed during the pandemic. So, can you please elaborate on that?
So I started exploring ketamine actually years ago is when I first took it, and I was like, what is this? You know, it's kind of it's kind of like, to me anyway, it was a little like LSD in a way. It was also um it's a disassociate. You disassociate. So I just really liked the effects. And but I didn't develop any sort of addiction at the time. And it was just when the pandemic started, my roommate was yeah, I shouldn't say too much, but he basically I was in a position where I could uh do it once a week, and it was just not, you know, when you're stuck in the house, and I think a lot of people developed addictions during that time, I have a feeling. And when you're stuck in the house and there's not that much to do, it's pretty easy to fall into something like that, I think. And so I fell into it, and just, yeah, it kind of took over for a few years. And and it got to the point where I was like, I just felt like if I went a day without it, I was like, wow, I made it one day. That's not good. That's not a place I want to be at.
Mm,
And I ended up in the hospital as well. And I just decided I need to take care of myself. It's not worth it. You know, I was getting kind of freaked out. So yeah,
definitely.
2 years ago this month, I just started.
Mm. Did it affect your creativity as well, you think?
Mm, I can be pretty creative on it. I find it doesn't, not in a negative way.
Not in a
Um,
negative way. Okay.
no, but I
Because
also, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, no, no, because most people, when we talk about the pandemics, the guest of this show, they say, I've never been so creative as in those times because, there was so much, free time, nothing
Yeah.
to do. So what you do, you make music, of course. So I was wondering if the same happened to you, besides this problem you just described.
Well, actually, what I did do during the pandemic is I started actually learning classical pieces on the piano. So
Mm,
I've never taken piano lessons. I've never been trained on piano. I was trained on other instruments, but yeah, I just started like actually learning like Debussy and all this stuff, and it was really good for my playing, I think. So became a much better piano player. I don't know if I wrote so many songs. I wrote songs for sure, but yeah, it was more, I used that
Yeah,
time to improve my
it was
skills.
very educational, let's say, period.
Exactly.
Not great. Okay.
Yeah.
Should you write a song in a completely different genre than what you do right now, what would it be and why?
Okay. I think, I mean, I like the idea of combining different genres. So I'd probably try to combine a couple of genres, but instinctively, I would say folk. It'd be kind of nice to do a really stripped down folk album. It's very like very emotional, and maybe not as like jokey as I tend to be sometimes. A little more like something that would make people cry, basically. I think I'd probably do.
Folk. Okay.
Yeah,
What
I like,
kind of from what region? Because there's different kinds of.
that's true. Like Americana folk, like
Oh, okay.
Suzanne Vega, and also like Iron Wine or whatever, you guys like that.
Mm-hmm. I think so.
Yeah,
Okay, that kind. That's good.
or Kings of
Now,
Convenience.
you have been living in Germany for quite some time, but let's pretend for a second that you never left Canada. How
Okay.
would you see yourself right now in terms of your music career? Where do you think you would be?
Oh God. I When I go back to Canada, I'm pretty amazed at how expensive the country is, and I'm always kind of blown away. I'm like, how do you people live here? Like, honestly, I don't know. But at the same time, when you're in a country, I think the amount you get paid is adjusted according to how much you spend. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
so I don't know. I don't think Canada definitely they do support the arts, but I feel like in Berlin at least there's more opportunities. I could be wrong. No, no, I'm not wrong. Actually, I went back to Vancouver, which is where I spent a lot of time, and Vancouver's completely changed from when I was there. Because with my old band, we used to play in Vancouver a lot. A lot. We played a number of shows, and we built up a following. And it was just really nice energy, and it was really like it was a little more livable. It cost didn't cost as much to live there, but now it's a lot more like I was just shocked. I went to the Commercial Drive, which is where we spent a lot of time, where the scene was really happening, and all these cafes I used to go to, they all shut down, and they're just like new, a little more gentrification, and so I don't know. I don't know if I could really do this in Canada. I've asked myself the same question, and I feel like this is I could probably do what I'm doing in certain places, maybe Montreal, or in the States, I think maybe like Austin, or who knows, right? A few other pockets where there's more subculture and more of a supportive community for artists, for example. But yeah, it's hard to say. That's a good question. It's really hard to say.
Mm. But I do agree, Berlin seems to be a special place because I have interviewed other people who live there. And for example, I remember Never Sleep, he makes like modular music, you know. He said, what I love here is that nobody cares what you do. I mean, you can do avant-garde, you can do any kind of music, even inside electronic music. Nobody will ever judge you, you know,
Mhm.
nobody would ever say, oh no, you should do this or you should do that. This is trendy, whatever. There's total freedom and opportunities, you know, also to
Yeah,
meet um, creative minds like you. So you always, for example, have lots of chances for collaboration of whatever
yeah,
genre you do almost because of this kind of special atmosphere that apparently you have in Berlin and not in other parts of Germany. So
yeah,
you can understand
for sure.
that. Do you agree? That makes sense to you?
Yeah, I do agree. At the same time, I do think there's something about Berlin where I think people tend to be quite individualistic here sometimes,
Mm,
and so there is a sense of community, but there's also a sense of um, a feeling that people are kind of do their own thing. Do you know what I mean?
mm, mm,
So uh, I was talking to a friend of mine who was in Berlin and she moved to the UK. She's kind of from the UK and from America, and she was saying like where she is right now. I think it's in Bristol, I believe. Well, Liverpool. She's in Liverpool, and she said that the vibe there is really like you get the feeling that you could really move ahead, whereas you don't necessarily get that feeling here in the same way. Like I think Berlin is like it's a great city for creation. It's a great city for incubation. So you have a project, you're working on it, you're getting different ideas, and you're putting your energy towards those ideas. And you can definitely find. I've had a number of different musicians on my recordings and stuff, but I kind of feel like if you want to grow past that and really have like a good career in music, it might work better in other places.
very
You know?
interesting perspective. Thank you. Now, your live performances are described as electrifying, energetic, and colorful. So I was wondering, how do you develop the ideas that you bring on stage? And also, so it's like two questions actually. What is your most typical stage setup, you know, in terms of gear and stuff like that?
Okay. Well, my stage setup is starting to evolve a little bit because I have two keyboards now, and one keyboard is very sophisticated and is like about €1,000, and the other one's like very cheap and it's falling apart. And that's yeah, so I kind of work with the two of them. And the last show I did, I also incorporated a bit more like Ableton and so on, so the beats sort of more punchy. So like a two keyboard setup, and yeah, and then I'll have different costumes. So I do costume changes and dance around a lot, do a lot of dancing, a lot of bending. I like to bend back as far as I can go. And I was working on doing the splits, but unfortunately, I think I pulled my glute muscle, so I had to
Oops.
take a break from doing that.
Okay. But
Yeah.
is it something spontaneous or is it something like you rehearse a lot, like the dancing, the, you know, the things that you do on stage?
I
What's your
rehearse.
attitude with that? Are you a
Uh,
planner or do you rely on your instinct once you're on stage?
I rely on my instinct, but I also have a lot of stuff that's been developed over time. So certain songs I do, I have like theatrics. Like I'll do kicks, for example. One song I do every time I do a break, there's a break, I do a kick, and that's a song where I also lean back. But I would like to spend. It would be probably a good idea for me to spend more time working on the show, so I can get even more um, accurate movements and things like that. Like I really respect musicians like Michael Jackson, where he was so meticulous with every movement that I it's just like it's mastery, to me. So I'm yeah. But the shows the way they are now are definitely like they're instinctual, but they're also like just through just doing it so much that
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, I see. Uh, d can you name the brand of the keyboards you're using, if you remember? Because people like to know, these kind of details.
Oh yeah, okay. I have it. I might have to grab it to look at it.
Oh, if you can, why not? I don't mind.
Okay, cool. Okay, so this one is it's a PSR E363.
Oh,
That's the
okay.
that's the keyboard. This one
Oh,
has
nice.
a lot of stickers on
Lots of stick. Yes, yeah, I can see that. Cool.
it. And this one is the new one. And this is my girlfriend got me this
Roland.
one.
I think
Yeah,
Roland I
it's
read in.
Roland. Uh, I'm so bad with this. Oh,
Yeah, just show it. People will recognize it anyway, probably.
oh, okay. Yeah, I'm not
You
sure.
can show the front.
It's
Okay, good. So
VR09.
people, you have
VR.
homework now.
It's a VR09.
What do you
But
say?
yeah,
Oh,
this is
oh,
really
okay.
cool. It's really sophisticated.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And how about your studio? Are you mostly a hardware or a software guy? And which products do you use more often?
I I use a lot of software. I use Ableton, and so for I've been basically accumulating a lot of plugins, and so I have everything from waves to there's so many free plugins that just blow my mind. It's pretty crazy. Like Voxengo, Vital's a free one, Toybox, and I think my favorite is probably Cymantix.
Mm,
Cymantix is great. It's a great company. They have some really good stuff. Baby Audio. Um, and in terms of hardware, like I have an AKG microphone, which I finally purchased, like an expensive one. And a Sennheiser as well, which I use, but that's mostly not in the studio. That's mostly what I use when I'm like playing a show or something. And I use an interface, Audient. It's an Audient ID4 for the interface, and of course my Yamaha keyboard, my Roland, and yeah, I think the rest is yeah. Ableton is my go-to.
hmm Your DW. I see. Thank you.
Love it.
Well, and since we have reached the what I call studio demonstration question, so that's when you're going to show us something related to your music. I'm pretty sure we will see more of this stuff in action. As usual, I have no idea what we're going to watch, so let's do it right now.
So, this is my studio. It's hard to say this is an actual studio because, let's face it, it's pretty low key. It's pretty low key. But yeah, this is my speaker, obviously. I need two, I need another one. This is my, what do you call it, Audient ID4 interface that I plug everything into that puppy. And this also where the sound comes out and that goes into my Ableton. I'm trying to sell this. So if you want to buy it, let me know. That's my microphone. It's a nice one. It's a AKG. AKG. The sponge is a little ratty, but it does the trick. And yeah, this is what I use for my live streams. This light right here. So the light shines on me, so I'm not in darkness. And this is a beautiful keyboard. This is a Roland. It's a Roland something something. It's a Roland. I think I mentioned it before. VR90. Anyway, so this is the main one I use, but it's falling apart. It's definitely falling apart. But anyway, got a lot of stickers on it, but yeah, it's falling apart. There's only one key that doesn't work on it, but the rest is pretty hunky dory. So this is my studio. It's pretty minimal. So I basically pull the keyboard out, plug it in, do some MIDI. Every once in a while, I grab a guitar. I don't know if you can see those guitars. There's two guitars here. These are my roommate's guitars. Actually, they're not mine. And yeah, I also wear this when I do live streams sometimes. It's the disco hat. It's a disco mask. So yeah. That's my studio. It's pretty low key, pretty lo-fi, but it does the trick for now. Yeah, and this is Ableton. Oh yeah.
Thanks a lot for this, for showing us your lovely studio. You know, as I always say, it doesn't really matter how big or furnished, let's say, it is. It's what you do with the stuff that you have that really matters. So again, I'm really grateful about that. And I wish you good luck, of course, for your future, your music, and people at home. Just, like, share, comment if you enjoyed this interview. Help me grow this podcast so I can invite even more and more cool artists. And well, take care, and again, see you next time, maybe.
Thanks.